cut them in half. Some people shave off the top. Some people drill a hole in and squeeze out the good stuff. Some people full commando jam the whole thing in place. So join us next week on the first week of a 48-part series, How to Be a Twinkie in a Ding-Dong World. Just say Twinkies ain't in the Bible. It's in the Message Bible. Bring your Message Bible. First Twinkie one. We're going to start there and work all the way through. I love it. A lot of new things in the church. A lot of hand sanitizer in the church these days. You notice that? Big old thing with the hand sanitizer. We're just freaking out about germs. We didn't used to. I used to work in my church nursery. I used to throw goldfish crackers on the floor. Let me get it just helps them fight off disease. That's all that does. There's a lot of hand sanitizer. At my church, we got these 2 hand sanitizer stations right by our front door greeters. That's not a good message. People coming in, thank you for visiting. We're so glad you're here. It's so awesome. You're going to love it here. We're just like a big family. We love it. We're not going to judge you. You just be who you are. You're special. God loves you. We love you. We're not going to judge you. We don't care. Are you all newly married? You have 4 kids. Is that right? 4 kids. Because children are so, they're like a gift from God. They are. We love children. We accept them. Where are y'all from? Arkansas? Really? Us Christians, we have words for everything. We have Christianese. We have our own language, don't we? Yeah, we do. We got servant's heart. You ever been called that? I don't know what to say to these people, brother. You got a servant's heart, Tim. You have a servant's heart. Why, thank you. And you have a giver's appendix. You have the follicles of understanding, my friend. Your wife has the neck of a provider. Go. It's like we don't say someone's a gossip. No, she has the gift of discernment. We don't say no. We say I'll pray about it. We don't say he's out of his mind. No, that's our youth pastor. I love it. It's great. Church is awesome fun. If you ever see somebody fall asleep in church? Isn't it awesome? It's so cool. We all been there, haven't we? Because you know somebody's going to fall asleep when they get that frown in the eye, Bob. It's just a matter of time. Jerk movements before they go Oh, I chopped her in the throat. I'm so sorry. She's a visitor. I'm so sorry. I chopped a visitor in the larynx. Oh. I'm so get away from me. Just get away from me. How dare you, you freak. How dare you do that to me? Red rub, red rub.
If you have a Bible, I'd like you to open it up to Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes chapter 3. And since Ecclesiastes is not a book that you normally turn to, I want to give you a minute to find it. Ecclesiastes chapter 3. We are finishing a series We're continuing the series in Ecclesiastes. And these passages of Scripture will probably be very familiar to some of you. Where we're going to go from there may not be real familiar to you. But when I asked Pastor Jim what he wanted me to preach about, he said, whatever God says. So this is what I feel like God has laid on my heart this morning. Ecclesiastes chapter 3, we're going to start in verse 1.
Page 462.
Page 462 on your little Bibles there in front. There is an appointed time for everything, and there is a time for every event under heaven. A time to give birth, and a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to uproot what is planted. A time to kill, and a time to heal. A time to tear down, and a time to build up. A time to weep, and a time to laugh. A time to mourn, and a time to dance. Baptists hate that verse, by the way. A time to throw stones, and a time to gather stones. A time to embrace, and a time to shun embracing. A time to search, and a time to give up as lost. A time to keep, and a time to throw away. A time to tear apart, and a time to sew together. A time to be silent, and a time to speak. A time to love, and a time to hate. A time for war, and a time for peace. So that's our starting point. We're going to go from there into the book of Matthew. Do you ever think about what it's going to be like when you first get to heaven? Does anybody ever think about that besides me? Okay, good. A couple of you. I tell you what, I don't want to sneak into heaven. I don't want to walk in on my tiptoes and have them call the roll and say, Scott Stoutenburg? Yeah. I want to come flying in. I want to come flying in and I want to give Paul a high five and I want to go, oh my gosh, what a ride. I want to be able to look Jesus in the face and go, everything that you said in your book, all the things that you said that I was supposed to do, I did my best to do. And I want Jesus to give me a hug and go, you're right, you did. Welcome. That's what I want. You know, I just turned 50. Still seems weird to say. I just turned 50 a couple weeks ago. I have no idea. My family is laughing. I have no idea how much longer I have on this earth. But I know that with the time that I have left, I want it to count for something. And I want to be able to look Jesus in the eye and go, you know what? The youth group that I led them to do everything that you said. So this morning, what I want to talk about is, I want to talk about one of my favorite things in the world, and that's church. I love church. I love Vacation Bible School. I love old hymns. I love potlucks. I love everything that is involved with church. Well, not everything. I like staff meetings when I'm real tired. But I just love church. But the church that is talked about in God's Word and the church that we have in America are kind of two different things. So this morning I want to take a look at the church in America and what the church looks like in the Bible and see if we can figure out a way that we can make the church in America look more like what God said it should look like. To do that, I think we need to focus on three things. Would you please turn over to Matthew chapter 22. Matthew chapter 22, verses 36 through 40. Teacher, which is the great commandment in the law? And he said to him, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the great and foremost commandment. The second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments depend the whole law and the prophets. So the first thing I think that we as a church have to do is we have to love God completely. Right now I am going through a book with one of our youth. It's called Radical. And the pastor's name is David Platt. And I am hoping that I can live out the rest of my life like it says in this book. He had the opportunity to go to an Asian country. He didn't say which Asian country it was. But for hours and hours and hours, they sat and they just studied the Bible. And they prayed. And they worshiped. And every time there was a knock on the door, they all froze. Every time there was a noise outside, they all froze. Because where they were meeting, the country that they were in, it is illegal to be a Christian. Not only is it illegal, you can die. They can put you in prison or they can kill you. It's up to the government. But these pastors came from everywhere. They rode on bicycles for hours. They walked for hours. Because in their mind, Jesus was worth it. And there was an American pastor coming, and he was going to teach them about Christ. There were two teenagers in that meeting. Their names were Ling and Shan. And you know what? I'm just going to read what they said, because I'll mess it up. Teenagers like Shan and Ling, who have been sent out from house churches in their villages to undergo intensive study and preparation for taking the gospel to parts of Asia where there are no churches. Ling said to me, I have told my family that I will likely never come back home. I am going to hard places to make the gospel known, and it is possible that I will lose my life in the process. Shan added, but our families understand our moms and dads have been in prison for their faith, and they have taught us that Jesus is worthy of all of our devotion. We have to get to the point where Jesus is worthy of all of our devotion. Where we can say, I love God completely. And I'm talking about the real Jesus. The Jesus is in the Bible. Not the American Jesus. See, there's a difference. The American Jesus is the Jesus that we try to rationalize. Well, my Jesus would never do this. The American Jesus drives an SUV and is wealthy and never gets sick and doesn't mind dropping the occasional cuss word. We can rationalize Jesus into anything we want. But I'm talking about the Jesus in the Bible. The Jesus that said, take up your cross daily and follow me. And guess what? When he wrote that, when he spoke those words, the people that he was talking to, they had seen people crucified. They knew what a cross was about. He was not telling them, this is going to be an easy road. But if you follow me, if you give me everything, it'll be worth it. So I think we as a church in the United States, I think we have to start there. We have to start where we can say, okay, Jesus, you are everything. Whatever it takes, whatever you ask, whatever it is, I'll do it. The second part of that is we need to start loving people. And that is not easy. I will give you an example. Friday night, I was on my way to a football game with my buddy Dean. We stopped in Monmouth. They have an A&W/KFC. And it's, I love that restaurant. My wife loves it because she likes chicken. I like it because I like A&W. Standing in line, and there was a gentleman in front of me to the left, and he had just ordered, and a girl working behind the counter rang up his order, told him how much it was, and he said, $8.35 for 3 pieces of chicken? My first instinct was, I just wanted to reach over and grab his ear and just yank on it. And then my second thought was, oh my gosh, I hope they spit in your gravy. There are some people that are not easy to love. I mean, this guy had a sour look on his face the whole time. And, you know, the poor kids behind the counter, they are doing their very best to try to make this guy, I think, just to go away. Like, sir, we will give you $1,000 if you just leave. But, and there are people like that. And we come in contact with them constantly. Constantly. If you work in the service industry where you have to deal with people, you were gonna come home sometimes and go, boy, it's like a kick them right in the shin. But you know, God doesn't allow that. We have to remember that those people, that Jesus died to save those people also. And there are some people, and remember, some of these people that we don't like, they're Christians. We're going to have to spend eternity with them. So we should start liking them now because eternity is a long time. But we have an image problem in the church in America today. People outside the church think that we don't like them. And you know what? I think by some of our actions, I think they're right. Church has become kind of a members-only club. One of the reasons I wanted to show that video was, one, because he was talking about church, but two, he was talking about how we've got our own language. I call it Christianese. And that's true. And we have to go away from that. We have to go away from it's just us and them. Because guess what? Jesus didn't die for us and them. Jesus died for all of us. Every one of us. Also in the book Radical, David Platt talks about sitting at his desk, looking at a Christian publication, and on the front of the publication they were talking about this church that built, added on to their building, $23 million. $23 million. And at the same time, on the other side of the page, was talking about 350,000 people were starving to death in the Sudan. And a church organization had raised $5,000 to send them. And how $5,000 would not even get a plane from America to the Sudan. But one church spent $23 million on a building. I'd like to see that building. I don't know what, he didn't mention the name of the church, but I'd like to see it. But we have to love people the way Jesus loved people. In the next 24 hours, 27 million slaves worldwide will go to work in brothels, harvesting chocolate. Ladies hate this when they tell them this. Almost all the chocolate harvested in the world is harvested by slaves. They will also harvest the coffee that we all drink and love. 26,000 children will die of starvation or preventable diseases in the next 24 hours. And that's not just over there. It's not just overseas. In the next 24 hours in Yamhill County, homeless people will go to bed hungry. Children in Yamhill County will go to bed hungry. We have a huge poverty problem right here, right outside of our doors. And what's really sickening, in the next 24 hours in Yamhill County, children will be trafficked to satisfy the lusts of evil men. We can't hide in the church anymore. We have to get out of the church and start loving the people that we claim to love. One of the cool things that our church is doing is called Trunk or Treat. Did everybody hear about this? We are going to be up at is it the new fire hall? We're going to be in the parking lot of the new fire hall on Halloween night. So instead of kids going all over the neighborhood, you pull up, you can decorate your car, you lift up your trunk, and kids can come trick or treat from car to car to car. And we'll be able to reach out to the people in our community. We'll be able to tell the people in our community, we care about your children, we want your children to be safe. The youth are doing something in a few weeks. We are partnering with a group called Compassion First. Right now, they are mostly working in Indonesia. They are rescuing people out of the sex trafficking industry. They don't just go, oh, that's a horrible thing, you guys should stop doing that. They raise money, they hire people, they go out, they kick in doors, and they grab people and they save them. They are starting to work in the United States, and our youth, on the Sunday before Thanksgiving, we were playing a football game, a flag football game, in the mud, no cleats, just slipping and sliding in the mud, against a youth group from Newburgh. And we're going to raise money to send it to Compassion First, because Compassion First is starting to work here in the United States. One of my friends went and listened to somebody from the State Department, the Attorney General's office here in Oregon. The representative from the Attorney General said that she could take a smartphone and go into any small community in Oregon and find kids that are being trafficked. In any small community. And the I-5 corridor between Vancouver, BC, down to San Francisco is huge. It's a ginormous problem. And the kids get to jump in on the ground floor and start helping them get in the U.S. If you would turn over to Matthew 28. I want to read one verse, Matthew 28, verse 19. Go therefore and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
An experienced firefighter was recently charged with grave neglect of duty. Prosecutors maintained that he had abandoned his responsibility when he failed to release rescue equipment. This resulted in the needless and tragic deaths of a family of 5. Eyewitnesses were sickened when they discovered that the reason the firefighter remained locked in the emergency vehicle was simply because he was testing a new high-tech CD player, which he maintained he had bought as a gift for the fire chief. The fire chief immediately distanced himself from the defendant, and he dishonorably discharged him from the department. In a prepared statement, the chief said, quote, "There are no words to describe such a betrayal of those he was sworn to protect." The lead prosecuting attorney argued that for more than 3 minutes after arriving on the scene, the firefighter wore earphones and listened to a CD, while a family of 5 was screaming to be rescued from the 6th floor of a burning building. Horrified onlookers related that as flames licked her clothing, a mother cried out in terror and fell to her death while still clutching an infant in her arms. Other witnesses said that the father was clutching 2 terrified children as he was engulfed by the massive flames. This terrifying drama took place in full view of the firefighter as he remained seated in the vehicle listening to the CD. The defense pleaded no contest, but added that the defendant went to great personal sacrifice to purchase the expensive gift for the chief, and hoped that the judge would take that into consideration as he passed sentence. What do you think is a fitting punishment for this serious crime? 2 years in prison? 20 years? A life sentence? Capital punishment? You be the judge. Please choose an answer, because we're going to tell you more about this story later in the program.
Now, for some of you, that may be the first time you've heard that story. That story is actually not true. It's an analogy. Can you guess who the firefighter is supposed to be? Yes. The firefighter is us, the church. You know, for the church in America to become like the church in the Bible, we have to start sharing our faith. I heard a statistic, and this is easy for me because evangelism is my main spiritual gift. So evangelism comes pretty easy for me. I enjoy it. I get a kick out of walking up to people and just talking to them about Christ. The kids that are going to Thailand, and some of the ones who want to go a little deeper than just what they're going to get in the youth group, are going to get an opportunity to go through that training that we're doing. And they're going to learn to share their faith, and they get to take 2 field trips to Salem to the transit center, and they get to go with a couple of adults and walk up to strangers on the street and just start talking to them. You'll love it, ready to blast. But we have to start sharing our faith. George Barna a couple years ago came out and said 90% of all Christians will die without ever having shared their faith once. 90%. That's horrible. Do you think 90% of all lottery winners ever tell anybody? I don't play the lottery because, they made up that stupid rule that you have to buy tickets or you're not eligible. But if they just handed tickets out and I won, you would never be able to shut me up. I would talk about that forever and ever and ever. But yet, the greatest gift that has ever been known to man is the gift of salvation. And yet we lock that up and we try to say that, oh, that's just a personal thing. The great thing I love about the Great Commission is not just what Jesus said, but it's when he said it. Those were the last words recorded on earth before Jesus ascended into heaven. And the last thing he said was, go and make disciples. But we've switched that around. We don't believe in go and make disciples. We believe in build a building and let them come to us. I think that I would love it if all churches were glass. And we could see outside and see the people. And I would love it if once in a while we didn't even have church on Sunday morning, but we spent that time out in the neighborhood. I should have told Jim about that for a second. I just think that would be so much fun. People are dying and spending eternity in hell. Eternity separated from God. And I think one of the things that hurts us is we don't have a grasp on what eternity is. How many of you have been to the beach lately? Okay. Imagine walking from Newport to Astoria, and on the way there, counting every grain of sand. When you finished, that would be 5 minutes in eternity. Eternity is a long time. And can you imagine being eternally separated from God? And I had this picture put up because I wanted you guys to have a visual of what things are like here in Oregon. And I want to remind you that the statistics I'm about to tell you are all conservative. 2 weeks ago, the University of Michigan had a home football game against Notre Dame. They broke an NCAA record. There were 115,000 people at the game. That's a lot of people. If you took the lost people just in the state of Oregon, you could fill up that stadium over 26 times. If you took the lost people in Oregon and had them lay down head to toe, you could go from Seattle to New Jersey. So, in layman's terms, just almost every person that you run into in the grocery store, at the gas station, almost everybody that you see driving by on the road, most of those people are bound for an eternity separated from God. We got to do better. I think it's going to be so cool. I think there are going to be kids that we meet in Thailand who are going to get saved because our team was there. I think one day we're going to be walking around in heaven and some kid is going to come up and go, hey, you remember me? No, I don't remember you. Well, you guys came from Oregon to Thailand, and I'm here today because of that. Or, hey, you remember me? Your church came and painted my house. Or, my husband was sick, and you guys brought over a meal. That stuff does not happen if we sit here. We have to get outside the walls. We have to start reaching the people that we run into on a daily basis. Because literally, it does mean life and death. It is a life and death situation. In closing, I just want to remind you that we need to love God. If we can say, Jesus, I give you everything, I love you with everything I have, then I think we'll be doing